evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's great to be here with you tonight. So we have Shavuot, the great holiday of the Jewish people coming up. It perhaps is one of the lesser known holidays, but in my opinion, it is probably the most significant because that is what made us the people that we are. We are the people of the book, and that's when we got the book, that's when we got the Torah. On the holiday of Shavuot, they read one of the 5 Megillas. There are actually 5, and not every Megillah is long. This one is short. We studied the entire Megillah here tonight. So it's a short one. It's called Ruth. And it's the story of the great-grandmother of King David. She actually was a Moabite woman. She was not Jewish born. And what happened was there was a wealthy man from the tribe of Judah named Elimelech. He fled town, he left because there was a famine, he was wealthy, he was concerned that his resources might be depleted, and he goes to the plains of Moab and he lives there. His sons marry Moabite men, Moabite women. That is it, yes. Ruth and Orpah are their names. They were actually princesses, daughters of the king. And both sons die. And Ruth and Orpah are all that Naomi has left because her husband also died. And the time has come for her to go back to Israel. And they want to follow her. And they say, we'll come with you. And she says, no, why would you want to come with me? Go back to the palace. What do I have for you in Israel? I have no more sons for you to marry. I'm already an old woman. And they say, no, we want to come with you. And she says, no, don't do it. Go back. And at that critical juncture, Orpah kisses her mother-in-law and returns back to Moab. But Ruth cleaves and clings to her, and she says, I want to join your people. She converts to Judaism, and she eventually becomes the great-grandmother of King David. Now, what's incredible about this is that it was a simple decision. There were 2 women standing on the same crossroads. One veered left, and one veered right. One of them, Orpah, she actually was the mother or the grandmother of Goliath. She was the mother or grandmother of Goliath, who eventually would have a showdown with David. And the other one, who returned to Israel, became one of the most critical and important figures of the Jewish people. She's the founder of the dynasty of kings, of the Messiah. And what is so incredible is that sometimes in life, we make decisions and we don't realize their import, we don't realize the significance, the outcome, the ramifications of that decision until years later when we say, wow, that was incredible. I recently watched a documentary called Above and Beyond, and it's about the formation of the Israeli Air Force. In 1948, when Israel declared independence, all the Arab countries surrounding it declared war. And Israel realized that if they don't get some planes, they're in trouble because Egypt had a good deal of planes. And no country, including the United States, was willing to sell. There was an embargo against selling arms to Israel. Eventually, the Israelis made a deal with Czechoslovakia, and the irony was that they got planes that were Nazi German Messerschmitts. And they scraped off the swastikas that were still on the planes, and they painted on the Stars of David. But now the issue was that they had no boys to fly the planes because everyone in Israel was an immigrant. No one had training in flying a plane. What do? And there were American boys who had training from World War II, and it was against American law. If they were caught, they could be stripped of their citizenship. But they volunteered, they went to Israel and they flew. And that was a critical turning point in the war. It's a funny story in the documentary. One of these American boys, his plane got hit. And he realized he has to parachute out of the plane. He waited till he got over Israeli airspace. And then he parachutes out of the plane. And as he's coming down, the Israeli kibbutzniks, they didn't realize that they had planes. It was like top secret. The Israelis themselves didn't know it. And they see a guy parachuting out of the plane, they figure he must be Egyptian. And they start shooting. And the American realizes you gotta get them to stop because they're going to hit him. But he can't speak Hebrew because he didn't have any training. And he just starts yelling the only Jewish word he knows. He starts yelling, gefilte fish! Gefilte fish! And it worked. They stopped shooting and he survived. But in this documentary, they interview these boys many years later, and they're about 80 years old. And now these grown men say, at the time it just seemed like an adventure. It was exciting. It was a cool thing to do. Go fly for the startup country. And we had no realization of what it meant, the significance, the import of that, until years later when we realized that Israel may not have come into existence without that. I think that's true. It's true of Rus and Orpah, these critical decisions that we make, and we don't even realize it at the time, how significant it is. And we live lives on a daily basis. We got decisions, we have dilemmas, there are things that we have to figure out what to do. And I hope we could look back and say, wow, that was life-changing. That really made such a big difference. So I want to wish you all a wonderful holiday coming up, and have a great evening.